Mm. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. And thank you so much for attending today's Sourcing Renewable Energy webinar hosted by our friends at UMass Boston and the Eco-Friendly Beer Drinker. I'm Katie Stinchen, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Brewers Guild. We're thrilled to partner with these two incredible institutions to help to make our brewing community more eco-friendly, learn best business practices, and learn how we can all be better stewards of our planet. So without further ado, I'll kick it over to the real experts. Rob, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thanks, Katie. So yeah, thanks to everybody for being here. And we're going to have Vesla present this first slide with a little bit of background about the Green Brewery program at UMass Boston.
Thank you, Rob. And I wanted to introduce myself, just say a few words. I'm not going to take much time here, but I'm Vesela Veleva, senior lecturer and also MBA program director at UMass Boston. We're the only public business school in Boston, for those who may not know. And our greatest resource, of course, is our students. So this has been a great opportunity to leverage the talent we have at the College of Management. This work is part of a 2-year project funded by the Environmental Protection Agency Pollution Prevention Grant. And we would like to thank the EPA for funding the work, which involves technical assistance and work with local Massachusetts-based breweries and other craft beverage manufacturers, doing site visit assessments, helping them with return on investment. And really the focus is to help them find ways to reduce costs as well as their environmental impacts. And we have already worked with 30 craft beverage manufacturers. Rob will tell you more about that. Again, we have this great resource, our students who are absolutely excited to work for breweries and other craft management beverage manufacturers. I wanted really to just take the time and thank a lot of people who made this possible. Of course, EPA for funding the work. I also wanted to thank Katie and the Mass Brewers Guild, which has been such an incredible partner for organizing, promoting those webinars. This is the second one in our series. We also, I would like to thank Kevin Blow, who is our former graduate assistant, who really worked very hard to put this idea together and work with Rob, who was absolutely crucial for making this webinar happen and connecting with all the speakers today. Of course, I'd like to thank our speakers. Without them, we wouldn't have had the webinar. And finally, last but not least, I would like to thank all of our current graduate assistants. I see at least 2 of them today, Lara, Joy, and Nathan, who have been helping throughout the process and with the project. And again, we welcome any other craft beverage manufacturers. We're working with other New England states, and you can see our logo at the bottom here, Better Bev. We have now logo, and we're launching very soon our Green Brewery recognition map, which will be on the UMass Boston website, where all 30 facilities will be recognized and they'll all receive their recognition. But without any further ado, I will pass it to Rob, who has been really our field manager and running this project for the past 1.5 years to take us along.
Thanks, Vesla. So next, we're going to move on and just talk a little bit quickly here about today's agenda. So we've got 3 speakers lined up for you. The first is Larry Cretion. He's the Executive Director of the Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They operate primarily, I believe, in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And Larry's going to give us some information on various options for buying electricity, along with an overview of what renewable energy certificates actually are. And I'm sure he's going to talk a lot more about many other things as well. And then we're going to have Jen Stevenson Zepeda, who's a commercial solar consultant for Revision Energy, which also operates here in Massachusetts, and I believe in numerous other states throughout New England as well. And she's going to give us a good overview on different options and considerations if anybody is thinking about an on-site solar array, as well as EV charging stations, and I'm sure, again, lots of other helpful information. And then we'll wrap things up with Alex Robbie, who's the co-founder at Portico Brewing in Somerville. And he's going to run us through the idea of taking a closer look at your electricity bill to actually see what's going on. Doing that can sometimes really yield some helpful information on how you might do things a little bit better. And in his case, Portico was able to take advantage of their local municipal aggregation. And so he'll run us through some of the real benefits of having done that. Then we'll have hopefully some time for Q&A as well. And yeah, so I guess we'll kick it off next here then with Larry. So Larry, I'll stop my share and you can share your slides with us.
Okay, thank you, Rob, and everybody. You can see my slides, I think, right?
We're good, yeah.
First of all, it's a pleasure. I went to UMass for a year, way back 100 years ago. Got a great education, and I would say I consider myself to be an eco-friendly beer drinker. You can go into my fridge right now, and you will see products from Massachusetts craft brewers. You won't see me touching a Budweiser or a Miller. I like it made right here in Massachusetts. About Green Energy Consumers Alliance, we're a nonprofit organization. We're in our 42nd year. I've been with the organization for almost 25. We're based in Boston and Providence, serving both states. And we have a mission, which is to empower consumers and communities, including the brewery industry, to speed a just transition to a zero carbon future. So some key points for today. Location matters a lot. Unfortunately, it's complicated by geography. I'll explain that. I'll explain what renewable energy certificates are and how they play into your thinking. Buying electricity, you've got options depending upon your circumstances, and I'll go through those. Want to say that on-site solar, which Jen's going to talk about, is fully compatible with buying electricity. You do need both unless you're going to go off-grid. If you go off-grid, then Jen can take care of you there, but most companies would be on the grid and could have on-site solar if possible. Community shared solar is also compatible with buying electricity. Those things can interact. I would say they're a la carte. And so you can have almost all of these things if you want them. And I want to touch very briefly on the Mass Save Energy Efficiency Program and on electric vehicle options for you all. So this graph we've had for a long time, and it just illustrates what we're trying to do with green electricity. The power pool that we used to have a few years ago was almost completely dirty. And over the years, because of state mandates and voluntary action, got a bit cleaner, but we want to keep going over to the right. And actually, I think we need to add a fourth segment, which shows absolutely nothing emitting in terms of pollution. This is the object of the game. This is what my organization's all about, which is trying to increase the voluntary demand to accelerate the progress. Progress is happening in the world and in the country and in the state, but it's not happening fast enough. And so we need to speed that up. So this is what I mean by location matters. And these slides we can make available to you all, and then of course the recording. But you know, it's complicated. This map shows how chock-a-block utilities are, and your opportunities for green electricity are going to vary based upon which utility you have. So, for example, the purple is Mass Electric or National Grid. Everyone's calling it National Grid these days, including the pink, which is Nantucket, which is also National Grid. Turquoise is the eastern part of Eversource, which is it's mostly Greater Boston, South Coast, Cape Cod. But then if you go over to Western Mass, all that olive green or whatever, call it lime green, is Western Mass Electric, which is also part of Eversource. And so they offer different opportunities. Up in the north central, it's Unitil, the yellow area. And then there's a whole bunch of municipal utilities that are pink. If you can see those, there's about 40 of them. And honestly, you don't get great opportunities with them. They've kind of lobbied themselves to be not exempt from a lot of the rules that National Grid, Eversource, and Unitil are, except Concord and Belmont. I don't know if there are any breweries in Concord or Belmont. I don't think so, but those two cities and those two towns are way ahead in terms of renewable energy. So this map, this graph shows what Massachusetts law is doing for us in terms of clean energy. CES means Clean Energy Standard. RPS means Renewable Portfolio Standard. And state law requires an increasing amount of clean energy over time. And so as you can see, right now, we're a little bit over 50% clean energy resources in 2023-24. And by 2031 or so, we're about 80%. And we never quite get to 100%, but we really need to speed that up. And that's where the voluntary demand can come in. We can get to 100% renewable energy faster if we go beyond what the National Grid, Eversource, and Unitil have. And this is important. National Grid, Eversource, and Unitil represent about 85% of the kilowatt hours that are consumed in Massachusetts. Municipal utilities are only about 15%. So what's a renewable energy certificate? So I hope you find this fun. The grid is how we distribute electrons that we all use to run our homes and our breweries. And that's what we get running through the lines. It's coming from a variety of sources. But when a wind turbine, when it's windy and it's blowing, it's going to generate some power. It's going to contribute to the grid. And so there's 1 megawatt hour of electrons going into the grid. And the wind turbine is going to get paid for that electricity. But it's also going to generate one renewable energy certificate, what we call a REC. It has to generate a megawatt hour to get a REC, but it can buy and sell that REC separately from the electricity. And whoever owns the REC, whoever buys the REC, gets to claim that they're buying green power. So in order to claim that you're buying green power, you need to get your electron from almost anybody, but then you need to buy a REC from a verified renewable energy resource. And the point is once you get the electron into the grid, you can't tell if it's a coal-powered electron or a wind-powered electron or a nuclear-powered electron. But look, so this house here is doing the right thing. They're buying green electricity, and look what happens. They bought the REC, and now they're a greenhouse. So that illustrates the way RECs work. That's all about trying to make the proper claim that you are buying green power. And so that's what you need to think about. When we buy green power, we're looking at buying the REC. This graph, just real quickly, is to show that RECs are generated all over the country, but when we're trying to make change here in Massachusetts and New England, we need to buy RECs that are based here in New England. Just like we want to buy beer that's based here in New England or Massachusetts. We don't need to buy Texas beer. We also don't need to buy Texas RECs. And here's the point. We want to buy projects that are relatively new, that are eligible for what Massachusetts calls Class 1. That's wind and solar primarily, some hydro and so forth. If it's an old project in New England, we've got a lot of old dams that have been around for 100 years. Buying the REC doesn't increase the amount of hydropower we're going to have in New England. That project's been up and running for a long time. It doesn't need your brewery to buy their REC. Same thing in Texas. They're able to build huge wind projects because the economics of them are good. And they'll sell you the REC. They'll take your money from the Massachusetts brewery, but you're not having an impact on increasing demand in Texas because those projects are just, the economics are far different. Not just Texas, but Iowa, Pennsylvania, and about 10 other states are producing way more RECs than they need, and so they sell them sometimes to Massachusetts customers. What's important is we're trying to change the character of the New England power grid. We're trying to displace fossil fuels in New England, and so unfortunately, I suppose, everything else costs more in Massachusetts practically than anywhere else. You don't be surprised. Wind and solar cost a bit more than it does in many other states, and so the RECs cost a bit more in Massachusetts, but you get something that's going to move the needle on the grid in New England. Just a quick point, Massachusetts is part of the New England Power Pool. All 6 states are buying together, are producing power and drawing from the same grid. So technically, it really doesn't matter if you're buying from a wind project from Massachusetts or a wind project in Maine. Both of them have the same impact on making our particular grid greener. But when possible, we like to buy as local as possible. Rob, I think, mentioned Portico is involved with municipal aggregation. I'll explain what that is. For customers of Eversource, National Grid, and Unitil, 85% of the state, communities, cities and towns are able to choose electricity supply separate rather than from the utilities' basic service. 170 communities, which is almost half the communities in the state, have already done that, heading towards 200. Of the 170, 83 are buying more renewable energy than required by law. And most of the 83 are also offering people to opt up to 100% renewable energy. I'm going to brag here. I think our organization has done more to stimulate municipal aggregation than anybody else in Massachusetts. And we have a report on this that's a few months old, greenenergyconsumers.org/aggregation. And what we love about it is it's allowing communities to go greener. By default, everyone is in unless they opt out. You can opt up to 100% renewable energy. And you can even opt out. If you find a better deal somewhere else, you can do that. It's very customer friendly. And so I think Portico is based in Somerville, and we're supplying the RECs to that Somerville aggregation. So I should come by and see how much better the beer tastes at Portico than places that don't have municipal aggregation. So here's a map that you can find on our website, and you can see that the dark green are the communities that have the highest amount of additional renewable energy. Anything that's light green is pretty good. We want to turn all the browns to green and all the greens to darker green. And as you can see, so there's still an opportunity for aggregation to move forward. But you can go to our website, you can plug in, you can find what your community has to offer. There's another way to buy electricity, retail competitive suppliers. That is an option where municipal aggregation is not available. It's actually even available within a community that has aggregation. You can have that choice. But we really are discouraging people to buy it for their own home because this industry tends to be predatory with individual residential customers. But if you're a brewery and you've got the time to weigh the offers and look at the fine print, you might be able to get a pretty good deal. But what you need to watch out for is you want to have a good price that's locked in. Don't accept an initial offer that is subject to change after 3 months. And you want to understand what kind of RECs they're offering. So there's an article there that where essentially I'm warning people about greenwashing that's in that industry. You can get bids from competitive suppliers that will have RECs that are from New England. Class 1 RECs is what you need to be asking for. So it's an option for you, just like aggregation's an option. Both of those can add more renewable energy than required by the basic service that the utilities do. So Jen's going to go into your opportunities to buy solar. And all I want to say is that if you put solar on your property at the brewery or at another business, you can do that a la carte in addition to buying green electricity from your municipal aggregation or from a retail supplier. And the same with community shared solar, which is a different story. With community shared solar, you're not buying electrons and you're not buying RECs. What you do with community shared solar is some developer has a project, usually a fairly large project, on a big roof or on the ground somewhere, and they're selling the electricity to the grid, and they're selling the RECs to somebody else, usually the utility. And the way it works to help them get financed, you pay them about 80 or 90 cents, and they'll send you a bill credit of $1. So you'll end up saving 10 or 20% based upon how much you're subscribing to them for. So it's a pretty good deal. It can reduce what you're essentially it's money in your pocket. it ends up reducing how much you would pay to your utility. So I know this sounds complicated, but you can buy green electricity from an aggregation or from basic service or from a competitive power supplier. And you can have on-site solar and you can have community shared solar. So those things are all different ways of supporting renewable energy. And if you mix and match them the right way, you can end up being cash positive. Moving off renewable energy just for a couple of minutes. If you're not already engaged with Mass Save, go there as fast as you can. We're all paying into Mass Save, which is the energy efficiency program that is administered by the utilities and on the Cape by a group called the Cape Light Compact. And increasingly, they are helping you save energy, but they're encouraging us all to go to electrification, which essentially means heat pumps and other getting away from burning fossil fuels on the site. So there are a ton of incentives available at Mass Save. You can also either find there or you can contact us. The Federal Inflation Reduction Act has big tax credits and other incentives for folks to go to electrification. We want you to be net zero as fast as you can. And that means electrification matched with on-site solar or any of those other ways of buying renewable energy. And then finally, our organization, I think, has the best education on a website possible for electric cars and trucks. We go to our website and look for Drive Green, but there are federal tax incentives and state rebates for electric cars, but also for electric trucks. And you can find that by going to our website. This truck you're looking at right there is the first large electric truck in Massachusetts. That's probably 2 or 3 years ago. And so there are more since. And that's intelligent labor moving and storage based out of Arlington. And so there are more opportunities there than there used to be. And increasing, there are more makes and models coming, and the tax credits and the rebates are all there for you. That's it for me. That's my contact information, website. And we do a blog. There's a ton of blogs that we put out trying to explain different issues to people. So I encourage you to look at that. I'm done.
Am I up? I think I can go. I'm going to share my screen. See if I can do this. All right. Can folks see my slides okay and hear me okay?
Yes, looks great and sounds great.
Thank you. Okay. So my name is Jen Stevenson Cepeda, she, her. I'm with Revision Energy and I'm on the team as a commercial solar consultant. Revision, is this, are the slides advancing? Okay, yes. So Revision works in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. We are 20 years old. And on the commercial team, we have solar capabilities, but we also work with battery storage and EV charging. On the residential side, we work with those technologies, as well as the air source heat pumps that Larry was mentioning and a few other technologies. There are two things that I love to tell people about Revision. First is that we are employee owned. And what that means is that we all have a stake in the success of our company that we co-own. And so because of this attribute, I think that we go the extra mile for our other co-owners and also for our partners and clients. And I've seen that reflected in the reviews that we get. So I'm really excited to be part of this company. The other thing that's noteworthy is that we are a certified B Corp. So B Corps are for-profit companies with a social mission. Our mission is to make life better by building our just and equitable electric future. And so what that means in my day-to-day is I can participate in our justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion meetings and initiatives. I can volunteer for organizations. We are working to set up mechanisms and strategies to help figure out how to get these more pricier technologies into frontline communities and low-income businesses in low-income communities to make it more attainable for them, speak to that equitable part of our mission. And we're one of the top rated B Corps in the country, to my knowledge. I think we're right up there with Patagonia. It's a self-certification that happens every 3 years. So it's not for the faint of heart. Just as a quick overview, I thought I would walk folks through how solar technology works. I hope that's helpful. These are solar panels. They're rectangles. We point at the sun. The sunlight hits them. They create direct current energy. That is not what we use in our homes and businesses. So we send it via conduit down to an inverter, which actually converts it to alternating current, which is what we use with our electrical infrastructure in our homes and on the grid. So what's noteworthy here is that if you have a solar array that is producing more energy than you need in any given moment, there's a mechanism called net metering through which you can send that excess electricity back through your meter and onto the grid, and the utility will compensate you for that electricity, and it appears in the form of a credit on your electricity bill. So it's a great mechanism to help green the grid even a little bit further. Here
Jen,
we
can I
are.
interrupt for 1 second? There
Yes.
seems to be a little bit of side minor noise. I don't know if it's affiliated with some movement in your
It's my ear. You hear
earbuds
that?
or something. Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay. I will go George Michael for everyone. I hope this is better. Yes? No?
I think so, but I'm actually still hearing it.
It might be the
Okay.
microphone attached to your ear set that you have right now.
I'll hold it like this. Perhaps this will be better.
Yeah, I think it's hitting like your desk or something and making a clang.
Sorry, so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
No worries. That sounds
Is-
much better. Thank
Okay, I'll just hold it here. Is there anything I need to go back and cover, or should I plow forward?
No, you're good. We're
Great.
fine.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. So I brought some examples of breweries we have worked with in the past. Here we can see Throwback Brewery, that's about 50 kilowatts. Bissell Brothers Brewing in Maine, that's about 100 kilowatts. And then we've got, I think this is Bangor Beer down on the bottom right. That's a ground mount array, that's 139 kilowatts. And then Blasty Bow, that's about 87 kilowatts, also a ground mount. And I just tried to pick different applications, so because we can install solar on pitched roofs, flat roofs, and ground mounts. And we can do parking canopies too. So that actually brings me to like the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about today. And these are, what am I thinking about in terms of getting solar on site? And so these are questions that me as a solar designer that I approach when I'm looking at a project, but also things that probably you as the business owner are thinking about. So I broke them into buckets, and I thought I'd just go through them at an overview. And then if there are clarifying questions, I'm happy to answer them. But when it comes to electrical loads, I think just overall, an observation is that breweries have high loads. So they're great candidates for solar, period. But the things that we're looking at, if you were to engage me to do a design for you, is first the utility bill, because it shows your monthly usage, and that allows me to size an array to what you need. If you have more granular data, which is interval data, which is, not everyone has this, but it's like 15-minute intervals showing us how you use electricity throughout the day. And we can map that to how much solar production we can expect to get a more accurate design for you. Another thing that we're bearing in mind is electrification, like Larry mentioned, as people move away from fossil fuel-based infrastructure to things like electric stoves, electric heating and cooling. That means your electricity usage is going up. And if you have plans to do any of that, it's helpful for us as solar designers to know, so that we can factor that in to what we're thinking in terms of your project. In terms of space, this is actually a big one. I'm looking at your roof space. How much can we actually fit? What is the age and condition of your roof? Is the roof pitched or is it flat? What is the material? What direction is the building facing? If you have a pitched roof, the ideal orientation is a south-facing roof. If you have a flat roof, it's less critical because we can rotate things. But these are some of the things we're thinking about with regards to space. We're also thinking about structural review. Does your roof have the ability to hold the extra 7 pounds per square foot that we usually require for solar loads? And if you don't, if there are any red flags in that space, we're looking for ground mount opportunities, because we can do that too. In terms of goals and budget, this is always a great conversation to have up front. We need to understand what is motivating you to go solar. Is it environmental goals? Is it that you need to meet a specific return on investment in terms of number of years? Is it a production target to meet 100% of your load? Do you have a certain budget you're working within? And so having a frank conversation with you about that is super helpful for us. And the last bucket I've included on here is ownership, because I understand that not all building occupants own their building. And I think that this is worth mentioning because, sorry, I hope folks can't hear the dog barking. It's noteworthy to talk about ownership because there are carrots we can dangle. There are conversations we can have with building owners regarding getting solar on your roof, because it is known, it's proven that solar increases a building's value. And so if we can have a conversation with them, we can get to yes. So I don't want people who are in a lease situation to think that they cannot pursue their solar dreams. I'll pause there in case I can't see the chat at the moment. So I'll pause a second, and if no one says anything, I'll continue.
I think we're good for now.
Okay, great.
I had a
Oh.
quick question about that.
Please, yeah.
Can landlords charge the tenants for electricity like the way a utility would?
Yeah, so if a building owner wanted to set up an array on their building and they own the array, as opposed to you as the building occupant owning the array, there is a mechanism through which they could set it up and then sell you that electricity. So
Is
that's
that
an
rate
option.
like set by the state, or they can charge like whatever they want?
That's a great question. It's not set by the state, but you as the occupant probably wouldn't sign on to something if it wasn't in your best interest, right? Because they can't really force you to do that. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually just a graph of production from an array that we built in 2016. So there's incomplete data or it's not a full year's worth of data for 2016, but I wanted to just bring this here because we had estimated that this array would produce roughly 60,000 kilowatt hours annually. And that design, that estimate was for actually an array that was a few more kilowatts larger than what was actually installed. And what I found remarkable about this chart was that we were actually producing on the lower years over 50,000 and on the higher years over closer to 71,000 kilowatt hours, which is great because it instilled in me confidence in our modeling. This was also built before we had a dedicated service team. We offer operation and maintenance contracts at Revision, and I always recommend them because with such a large investment, you want to ensure that there are trained professionals monitoring that production, making sure it's producing what we want it to, so that you aren't losing out here on the clean energy you invested in. So I don't actually know if these folks now have an O&M contract or not, but just something to bear in mind as you go through solar. Does the company have an O&M team, and what does that service look like? Because we at Revision get calls constantly for arrays that were installed elsewhere, asking if we can come help troubleshoot. So as of July 2022, this company had generated over 260 megawatt hours of energy, and they were meeting 20 to 60% of their electricity needs with the array. You're going to see the lower percentages in the months like February where there's less sun, and the higher end in like June, July. And I love the quote, since installation, our electricity bills have been cut by more than 50%. Just wanted to fly through a couple other perks that people might not think about. Throwback, which I mentioned back in the beginning. They created a special sunny brew for us for the launch of their solar panels for that ribbon cutting. Our marketing team does offer ribbon cuttings and other types of events like that, press releases. We think it's a great way to host a party there and get things moving and great publicity for the brewery. And then, we like to have public gatherings and private company gatherings at these breweries. So it's just a great marketing opportunity for you if you can say your beers are brewed with solar energy. And then not to encourage drinking driving, but the Venn diagram of craft beer drinkers and EV drivers is basically one circle from what I understand. And so demand for EVs is going up from what I understand, and Larry would know this better, but what I heard was in 2023, we sold more EVs in the US than the previous 2 years combined. This means that there is demand for chargers. And if this is a way for you to attract someone to your brewery, so be it, because you can recuperate the expenses that go along with that charger by charging the customer to plug in there. I'm an EV driver. If I had the opportunity of plugging in at Flight Deck Brewing in Brunswick versus Walmart, I'm going to go with Flight Deck. So just another thing to bear in mind as we think about the existing incentives that are currently fantastic for EV charging, and that are great synergy, have great synergy with solar. I'm trying to rush along. How are we doing on time, Rob? Are we okay?
Yeah, maybe another 2 or 3 minutes, if that's possible, just to keep
Sure.
us close to on time. Thanks.
I can do that. So we're at the financials portion of what I had planned to talk about. What's the ROI? This is a great question. I think when you have grant funding, we could see it as low as 3 years and as high as 15 years. Depends on your tolerance level. We can work with you to meet something that's in line with what you expect. I think probably more typical ROIs are in the 5 to 10 range. There is a 30% investment tax credit available for these projects that once a project is up and running, the next year when you submit your taxes, you get that 30%. There's also depreciation benefit that's worth roughly 20% of the project cost. And then what's the lifetime of these systems? So panels are about 25 years. Inverters, we expect to replace those about half of the way into that. And we're expecting the systems overall to operate for 30 to 40 years, which is fantastic. And again, this is a plug for our O&M package, just because we want it to be producing what we expect it to produce. Lots of benefits. I'm not even going to go over this one. I want to skip right to financing options. So as always, cash is king. It's the most straightforward way to get solar on your roof or property. You avoid any costs associated with loans and leases. You still get the tax credit and the depreciation benefit. You get the maximum benefits regardless if you own the system versus any other situation or configuration. Not to say that there aren't pros to any of them. Loans offer the same benefits as cash. It's just that you might have a longer ROI because you financed it. And then my last slide is on a couple grants and other funding mechanisms. So I already kind of went over the 30% investment tax credit that's also available to nonprofits now through the Inflation Reduction Act in the form of direct pay. Energy community, if there is anyone here from an eligible census tract in like the Northampton area of Massachusetts, the Fall River area of Massachusetts, or the Salem area of Massachusetts, those are coal closure communities, and you automatically qualify for an extra 10% on top of the 30. There are maps that can point you to if you're in an eligible census tract. There are also brownfields that are eligible for this. So there are resources that I can share with anyone who wants to reach out on how do I determine if I am in an eligible area. These are not competitive. Those are automatic. There are other adders within the Inflation Reduction Act that do require competitive applications. I have not included them here because it gets pretty weedy into the weeds real quickly. The last one I wanted to shout out was the REAP grant. This is the Rural Energy for America program. It's through the USDA. It's been around for a while and traditionally offered 25% back off of your project costs. It's currently bumped up to 50%, which is unreal. The 50% is only through the end of September. So if there's anyone here who thinks they're in a rural area and qualify as a small business and they're interested in this, I would urge you to contact me sooner than later so you can get in while that's still eligible or still an offering. I mean, we don't actually know how REAP is going to continue and what shape it will take post-September. I'm hoping that they still maintain 50 or 25%. And there's a map that can show you if you're in an eligible area for this too. So those are just some of the ones that came to my mind when I was thinking about other ways to help make these systems more attainable, and happy to discuss others if anyone wants. And that's all I got. I hope that my microphone was okay for the rest of that.
It was great. Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. If you could
Okay.
stop your share, that'd be awesome.
You
And
bet.
we'll wrap things up here with Alex. All right. Great. All right, Alex, we're ready to go.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex Robbie, one of the co-founders of Portico Brewing. We are a brewery now. We weren't for quite some time. we were a contract business, meaning we brew our beer at various other breweries and distribute for about 12 years until we opened our tap room here in Somerville, which you can see this very beautiful photo of. We opened in April last year, so we're almost a year old, and really enjoying making Larry. Hopefully he's had some of our beer, our local Massachusetts craft beers. From the get-go, you know, opening a business takes a lot of effort and money before you open your doors. But along the way, we wanted to start conversations about how to be green and do the right things from an energy perspective. Luckily, I don't know if this is on the next slide, Rob, but the building that we're in happens to be LEED Gold. It's a biotech building, glass and steel monstrosity that's going up in Boynton Yards in Somerville. And at first it was, you know, it sort of represented this new wave of Somerville, Union Square, these giant buildings, these giant developments. And we just wanted to see what things we could do that would be positive impact on the environment, despite the sort of surroundings that we were in. And I think the building that we're in, being LEED Gold, was a first step. But the next steps were things like, you know, having an all electric brewery, kitchen, everything. We have no gas bill at Portico, which I think is pretty unique. And I really don't want to greenwash by saying, you know, we send our grain to farms, because everybody does. But what else can we do to kind of have a positive impact? So, you know, other than a footprint, we sort of call it our handprint, sort of positive things that we can do for the environment. And we call that our environmental handprint. And I guess we'll go into sort of the purpose of this conversation, which is more about energy and where we get our energy and what the options for how we get our energy. I could go on about the other things that we do, but this is kind of the focus today, so keep it short and sweet. So as I mentioned, it takes a lot of effort and money to start a business. Once you open your doors, honestly, you're always looking for ways to save money. So it started by looking at our Eversource bill, which is where we get everything, because we don't have a gas bill, just electricity. And we were looking at sort of the fluctuating rates that we were experiencing based on the, you know, the basic grid service that we got, and realized, you know, that it was a bit on the high side. Seems, you know, if you ask around, 43 cents per kilowatt was our rate at the time. And so, Rob, what's the next one there? Yeah, so basically we were when you sign up for Eversource, you're paying sales tax on that energy. So we realized, after, thank you, Rob, for helping us realize this, that you could fill out something called an ST12 form if you're a manufacturer, and you can get exempt, which was one way to find a little bit of cost savings right off the bat. Like these slow transitions. So the next step was signing up for Somerville's municipal aggregation option, the CCE program. And as people have already spoken about, I think Larry mentioned sort of the RECs and the Mass Class 1 renewable energy certificates, RECs from solar, wind, anaerobic digestion, et cetera, is where our energy would now come from if we signed up for this Somerville CCE option. The rates were better, and it was guaranteed, so the fluctuations weren't going to occur. Additionally, that we can get a tax deductible bill at the end of the year. So thanks to what Larry already talked about, the what was GECA again? Sorry.
Green Energy Consumers
Green Energy
Alliance.
Consumers Alliance. Okay, thank you, Rob. So we're saving some money here, but also signing up for the right type of energy that's coming from local supply in Massachusetts. And the best part was that we didn't really have to do much other than just sign up, and nothing really changed. We didn't have to change our utility company or open anything new. Now we're getting our energy from a different source. I live in Somerville. You can do this as an individual as well. So it doesn't have to be just a business that takes advantage of this option. So anyway, we feel good about this from both the financial perspective and sort of how we can save a little bit of money and how we can market this to our consumers, which I always feel awkward about, like trying to tout sort of green initiatives that you do. It's a challenging thing. You don't want to jam it down people's throats, but you also don't want to hide it and make sure people know what you're up to. So we do it subtly. We have a wall in our brewery that talks about some of the programs we do, and this is one of them. So what do we have next? Thanks to Rob, who, if he hasn't been introduced properly, Rob is our sustainability director at Portico, in addition to being the eco-friendly beer drinker and all the cool stuff that he does. Rob and I had beers many, many years ago and found that we had a lot in common from giving a crap about the environment and feeling frustrations about just everything all the time. So Rob came on and has been helping us out. And one of the things he did was come up with a report for Portico and sort of tracking all the things that we were doing throughout the year, called it the Environmental Handprint Report. It's on our website. And as you can see, renewable energy is one of those things that we're sort of telling people about, in addition to taking care of our neighborhood, being involved with Charles River Watershed, being involved with, we're technically green brewery recognition. You can look that up. It's fine. We just started composting. We do not, we try to use zero single-use stuff. We don't use any plastic cups. We had a food vendor that was using, single use, and we forced them to switch over to compost. It's the little stuff that I think at least makes me sleep at night that we're trying. Like, the world doesn't need another brewery, does it? Really? I mean, we're just putting more stuff into the world, but if we can just do a little bit to do it a little bit better, maybe some of our customers will feel that too and get a little bit better in their own lives. That's all it's really about, honestly. But all that being said, saved a few bucks too along the way. So thank you, Rob. Thanks to the Somerville CC option. Is there anything else that we're talking about?
I think that's it.
Another one. Cool.
All right. Thanks so much, Alex. So we'll just wrap things up here really quickly. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the UMass project and any sort of situations that we talked about today, as well as anything else revolving around sustainability, please reach out to us. So you can reach out and check out our website, which is launching pretty soon with a bunch of new really cool resources, including, as Vesela mentioned earlier, a map of all the breweries that we've had participate in the program and will be recognized. And you can send either an email to myself or to Vesela, and you can take the survey that we have available as well. And again, we'd be happy to get you involved in the program and see what we might be able to do to help out. And with that, if there are any other questions that anybody has, we're happy to go into those right now. I don't know if Katie or somebody is monitoring the chat, maybe.
Ben has a question, I think. Ben, just unmute yourself.
I do, yes. I sorry, I'm talking a lot here. How big is your power bill, Alex? What's your monthly kilowatt usage?
It's a good question. Just had it up actually. I was just looking at it. Let's see if I can find it somewhere.
I want to say
yeah.
that the annual
think we were
bill
like
was
4,000 last month, 4 to 6,000 ish.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think the annual
We
was
range between
somewhere.
4 and
And you and it's all electric at your brewery, right? As you were saying?
Yep. Our some breweries don't do electric because at scale it's not as good of a brew house once you get over like 10 barrels. But our brewery is 3.5 barrels, and we have a great electric brew house that works really well. It makes delicious beer. So that was the first step, and then we built a kitchen, and we decided to also go all electric. So I think that's kind of the wave of the future in restaurants, but it's really hard for restaurants to make that change when they're used to fire and
So
gas.
the ones that are using gas, is that to like boil water? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so you usually have a kettle that you need to, heat. So what we use is electric probes that go inside the kettle and they heat the water. Or we have a tank for water, and we have a tank that boils the beer in the kettle. That's
Cool.
basically it. Yeah.
Thanks.
So one of the other benefits of an electric brew system that we didn't really mention today was that there are no on-site emissions involved with that. If you're burning gas on site, there are some emissions, and so avoiding that is great from a safety and from an air quality perspective, as well as from the environmental perspective.
There was another question about what do you do if you don't pay your meter? If you don't pay directly your bill?
Yeah,
That's a
I saw that question.
great question. Yeah, Larry,
Yeah.
take that.
There's a couple ways. You should talk to your landlord and try to encourage them to find out how they're buying energy. They're probably charging you one way, in your rent for it. Make sure they know about their options the way we talked about them. If you really want to buy renewable energy, actually, you can go to our website, greenenergyconsumers.org, look for our Green Powered program, and we can actually sell you RECs that you could purchase in addition to whatever, just to have. Then that's a way of supporting renewable energy, and you can claim your green there. We recommend that you look for community solar options. You could work that out with your landlord, perhaps whoever has the meter. In other words, you could sort of maybe be the mediator between the market and your landlord, perhaps. And certainly, I don't know if there's possibilities on site, but you should, maybe with the information you got from Jen, you could bring that to the landlord. So it is more difficult. We always call the landlord-tenant split incentive is a considerable barrier to clean energy adoption. And there's no easy way around it. You just have to find opportunities where you can get them. But if you need more information, you can email me later and maybe we can help you out.
I would just add to that signing up, as Alex mentioned, for municipal aggregation, if you have that option, is super easy to do. It doesn't create any extra work for your landlord. And again, it benefits both you as the business as well as your landlord. Maybe even financially benefits you too, not just from the green perspective.
Yeah, and if I could, Rob, a couple of the questions in the chat, and getting back to what Alex mentioned, the Mass Save program is really trying to pivot everybody, not just they want to encourage energy efficiency, but they also want to encourage electrification. So there could be significant rebates available to do things like hot water at scale. So I'm sure it's beginning to develop. I think that's going to be available for larger breweries than perhaps a couple of years ago. JC put in the chat about their electric fired steam generators to evaluate with your engineer. Again, that's those technologies. That's where the money's going now, is to try to push that efficiency higher. So it's quite a bit different than electric resistance as opportunities there.
Great, thanks, Larry. Anything else in the chat, or anybody else that wants to just raise a hand or unmute themselves and ask a questions? All right, if that's all we've got, we're just about at time. So that was perfect. We appreciate everybody being here. As mentioned earlier, this video will be available through both Mass Brewers Guild YouTube channel, and I think Larry is going to put it up on the Green Energy Consumers Alliance channel as well.
And I'll be sure to email it to everybody that's registered. If you all want to send me your slide decks, I'll be happy to put them all together and send them in one email as well.
Will do.
That would be great.
Yeah,
We've already. Go ahead, Vessela.
We already asked our GAs to put one slide deck in PDF, so I'll send this to you, Katie, so you can share with everyone.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for being with us, and all the speakers and UMass Boston and Eco-Friendly Beer Drinker for all you do. We're really grateful for this alliance and partnership. So thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Cheers, everyone.